Alright, so today we're doing Chapter 13, Trials and Juries. Alright, the learned objectives we have are trace the history of trials by the jury, scope of the right to a trial by criminal case, and patch the differences in the jury's size, and anonymity requirements, explain how a jury is summoned and selected, the function of the jury, and presumptions that apply to start a trial, and the proof of applications or burden that overcome them. Alright, so the history of the trials by jury is the Magna Carta of 1215, which basically is the Great Charter. It's one of the most important documents in history, as it established the principle that everyone is subject to the law, even the king. Guarantees them, the rights of individuals, the right to justice, and the right to a fair trial. So it gives everybody that right, to a fair trial, and everybody gets those individual rights. So it don't matter who you are, everyone gets those rights. That's what the Magna Carta does. So really, really interesting. Also, we just going to talk about regarding the history of the trials by the jury is the colonial developments transferred to colonies written in the Constitution. So we have the Sixth and Seventh Amendment. The Sixth Amendment guarantees criminal defendants the right to a fair trial. So, in other words, just because you're a criminal, and you might think that your rights get taken away, but with this, it still gives you that right to a fair trial, whether you're a criminal, whether you commit, if you commit a crime or whatever, you still get guaranteed that right to a fair trial. On the other hand, the Seventh Amendment extends many of the same rights to litigants in civil cases. So, and juries in criminal trials and all criminal prosecutions or accused shall enjoy the of a speedy and a public trial. And the case, one of the cases is Duncan versus Louisiana of 1968. The scope of the right to a trial by jury, and all persons accused by violating the law have a right to a trial by jury. So not everybody gets that right, I guess. Depending on on what you do and on this case. So we have jury size. So jury size, you have 12 people for the jury. It's by historical accident. Not required by the Constitution. You have 6-person jury acceptable in non-capital cases. So I actually looked this up. I looked this up yesterday. So in other words, there's usually 12 people in the jury, but they could do there's mini courts, I believe there is, where there's 6 people, but there's less than 12 people. So I think the whole reason behind 12 people is because there was something with, I think, religious or something. I'm not religious, but there's something religious. I think there was 12 people behind God or something like that, and that's where they get the 12 people from. And I don't know. I mean, I think to a certain point it doesn't really matter, but those people will decide your fate. Which is crazy. I think that's fair because if you're going against somebody, one person, it could be just one person is not enough. They might not be looking at all the sides, but 12 people, different minorities, different races, different backgrounds, different ethnics, they can. It sounds like a more fair. They don't know who you are. They don't not paid, or they're not they're not given anything to choose a certain side. So they're neutral for both sides, and they're different minorities, different groups, different race, different ethics, and they have different opinions. So I think it's more fair than having, I'm just saying, 12 white people, 12 black people, 12 Mexicans. I think it's fair to have different kind of people and have just people who are just neutral, so they can make a fair decision. That's my opinion on that. Also, a voter registration list. Advantages are readily available, frequently updated, and the disadvantages are the poor, young minorities, and you have less educated. So jury panels can be challenged if they fail to include racial or other minorities. So in other words, I guess it's really hard to prove that if you're, that they're racist or that, minorities, then you can actually challenge the jury. If there's a bunch of, I'm just saying white people, because I don't know, just why not? I guess whatever. Then I guess you can challenge it, being and I'm saying there's a black person or a minority or Mexican or someone a different race on stand. They can, I guess, then challenge it, be this is not fair. There's all these white people in the jury, and I'm a different race, which I don't blame them. I mean, I think it should be a mix of every race and different backgrounds, and a mix of different people in the jury, because these people decide this person's fate and this person's future. So I think it should give them a fair point, fair advantage. There's also different kind of evidence. There's raw evidence, testimonies, direct evidence, scientific and demonstrative evidence. There's also reliability, how reliable the evidence is. There's alibi defenses, affirmative defenses. Talk about the case of Martha Stewart and a verdict if you're in a federal, state, or judge versus juries.